What's up everybody, you're watching Model Aviator, I'm Adam, and we're finally getting around to reviewing the XFly twin 50mm A-10 Thunderbolt II from Banana Hobby. I've personally been looking forward to this one. Who doesn't like an airplane designed around a big gun? The A-10 has proven itself in combat multiple times, and the 30mm GAL-8 Avenger rotary cannon fires 3,900 rounds per minute of depleted uranium rounds that can cut through tank armor like Swiss cheese. It strikes fear into any enemy, so much so opposing forces have surrendered because A-10s were on station. In the close air support role, the A-10 simply has no equal. XFly says using the recommended batteries it sounds like a turbine, has an abundance of thrust compared to other models in its class, and delivers a wide range of flight times. They promise easy hand launches and the ability to take off and land from smooth or grass surfaces using the included landing gear. Let's get this thing together and then we'll give you all the details. XFly says 20 minutes to assemble the A-10, and as you can see from the low part count, that's a reasonable amount of time to allow. You start with the main wing. You'll simply plug in the two aileron servos and bolt the wing down with 4 bolts. Then you'll move on to the horizontal and the verticals. We chose to clean the bare foam parts to be glued with alcohol and then score them with our hobby knife to make sure we get a good glue joint. If you do this, doesn't matter if you use medium CA, foam tack, whatever you use is going to work much better. Then you simply glue them into place and attach your 2 ball links to the 2 elevator control horns. You'll then move on to the gear. The mains actually just slide right into a slot provided. The nose wheel goes through a hole in the bottom of the nose of the airplane. There's a plastic spacer, you don't want to forget that. Then you have a tiller arm that you attach on top, and you just make sure that tiller arm goes in the slot of the nose gear servo. Then the only thing left to do is choose the receiver of your choice, install it, bind it to your transmitter, and program your transmitter, and you're done. And there we have it. As promised, it took us just under 20 minutes to get the airplane assembled, and when you factor in programming the transmitter, that put us at just under 25 minutes. It comes with some no-step decals that you can install if you'd like to. Worth mentioning, the manual goes through the very few steps of assembly very well, and it shows you exactly where these go should you decide to use them. The A-10 has a wingspan of 39.4 inches. It's 36.2 inches long. Our example weighs 2 pounds 9 ounces, ready to fly with a Spectrum Smart 4S 2250C pack. It's equipped with 2 40-amp ESCs, 2 4600 brushless inrunner motors, and 2 50mm 12-blade fans. It has 9-gram digital servos all around and is intended for 4-cell 2200 to 2600 milliamp battery packs. It is a 4-channel airplane. You have aileron, elevator, throttle, and a steerable nose wheel. Like a lot of EDFs in this class, the rudders are non-functional, so it is a bank and yank. Obviously, it comes as a plug-and-play, so you install your receiver of choice. And the current price point through Banana Hobby is $209.90. The A-10 setup is not a difficult affair, and the manual covers all the important stuff. CG, throws, rates, control horn, and linkage position. It even gives you a diagram that shows you a specific panel line on the rudders that you want to align your elevators with so that you get the right neutral position. There is a hatch underneath that gives you access to the elevator servo, and both elevator push rods pass through the same quick connect. So this makes making sure that your elevators come up even and are aligned with that proper panel line pretty simple. So when it comes to setting up this airplane, we added a step. It's not something everybody has to do, but it's something that we think is really useful. We wanted to share it with you. So it is worth noting that when we do a review, we try to give you our take on the airplane, and we try not to be influenced by watching other videos or reading forums about the airplane beforehand. So we just kind of give you our take. You hear how things go for us. If something comes up, it comes up. We solve it. We tell you how. Well, that kind of went out the window with this airplane because we didn't know we'd end up with a relationship with Banana Hobby and they'd be sending us airplanes. And when we got this, I'd seen 10 or 15 videos on this thing. So I was influenced when it comes to the hand launching and the fact that it's just inconsistent. It's not that you can't successfully hand launch this airplane. It's not that you can't get consistent with it. It's just that not many people do. A lot of times it's sketch. And the reason is, with any airplane, when you're hand launching an airplane, you want to be able to try to grip it as close to the center of gravity as possible so that you get a level launch. Well, there's no provision underneath the A-10 for you to grab hold and do that. So what most people do, they grab it underneath the nacelles. Well, that makes the airplane really nose heavy where you're handling it. So you got two options. You can either really grip the foam so tight that you're actually putting a fingerprint in it to keep it level, or what a lot of people do is they don't grip it as tight and they just kind of ramp it up and try to time their release before the nose drops. Well, that was just a little too sketchy to suit me. So what we did is what we've done with a lot of airplanes that require a hand launch. We installed a hand launch provision, and it happens to look like a bomb rack on this A-10. It's a pretty simple affair to do. It is an 1/8 inch piece of light ply sandwiched between two 1/8 inch pieces of balsa to make a base. We made it the length that is between the two plastic mounting plates underneath the wing so that it had something to be secure against. We traced around it and cut a channel in it to reside in, and then simply 30-minute epoxied it in place. Heidi painted it to match the airplane, and so now I've got a nice hand launch handle that enables me right at the center of gravity to get a nice level launch. And the other thing that's kind of an ace in the hole to help us with a launch is a launch mix. And what we've done is we've incorporated a throttle to elevator mix. So when we go full throttle, watch what happens with that elevator. Gives us some up elevator to aid us in our launch and help the airplane come off our hands nice and level and start to slowly climb away. Then we assign that to a switch, so we simply flip it off and watch what happens. Elevator goes right back to the neutral position and away we go. And this is something that can work regardless of what receiver you use, even if your receiver doesn't happen to have any kind of self-leveling technology. So we just thought we'd share that. Again, it's not something that you have to do, but if you do these two things, hand launching this airplane will be a lot more consistent for you. So, time to get to the fun part, time to get to the flying, and spoiler alert, this thing's fun. Anyway, as usual, before the flying, you are going to see our full setup info page, and we'll include a picture of our launch mix, the throttle to elevator mix, in case you might want to incorporate that with yours. We tested everything promised with the flying. There's gear on and gear off flying, smooth surface, and grass takeoffs and landings. So check this out, enjoy the flying. We'll meet you back here and we'll give you our final thoughts. One quick thing before we get to the flying, I have to give a shout out to Simon Viger. His son Fergus contacted us and said that Simon enjoys watching our channel and asked if we would give him a shout out and wish him Happy Father's Day on our next video. So at this point it's a little bit belated, but hopefully you had a good one. Simon Viger, Happy Father's Day. We're glad you enjoy our channel. Thank you so much for watching. And right off the bat, we're going to go into a stall test. And as you can see, it just drops the nose straight forward, pretty uneventful, and worth noting, when the gear's off, it does the same thing. The stock gear handled the grass operations very well. Couldn't resist, I had to throw a tumble in there. Heidi asked me to redo the high-speed pass. I think she wanted to make sure she had it all in frame for you. And as you can see, it has plenty of speed and power, even with the added drag of the gear. Here I'm going to put it into a tight turn and increase the severity of the turn. That ended up being a full deflection turn. I was trying to see if I could coax an accelerated stall out of it, and as you can see, it handled it well. And as you'll see here, the airplane flies as good inverted as it does right side up. we changed venue for the gear off flight. This is a much tighter area to fly in, and the A-10 is maneuverable enough and comfortable enough at a wide range of speeds to be a lot of fun here. This thing makes great power. It has a good climb rate and a good amount of speed, considering it's not the slickest of EDFs. But when you take the gear off, you really see the airplane's full potential. To me, that's a good test of the kind of power you get out of an EDF. When you can be in a vertical maneuver at less than full throttle, and then you can add power and go ahead and power through whatever you want to do at the top, you're making pretty good power. And there you have it. So right off the bat, when it comes to the power, that claim is absolutely true. It does sound like a turbine, although it's much quieter, especially considering it's a twin than I was thinking it would be. But don't let how quiet it is fool you. This thing is making monster power for an airplane in this class, and it has as good a climb rate as anything in the class I've ever flown, so I was very impressed with that. However, the price has to be paid for that power, and it is tough on the batteries. I will say that flying it the way you saw me fly it, 3 minutes is the maximum we could get. We flew it on our Spectrum packs as well as 3 other manufacturers' packs, all 2200s, and after a flight like you saw, every one of those packs came out feeling like a hand warmer. So it's making good power, but it is challenging for the batteries. So you just want to make sure that you use high quality, newer packs to get the most out of this airplane. And when it comes to flyability, I'm an experienced EDF pilot, so it's not a hard airplane to set up and fly to me. Keep in mind you're in full control of the setup. How aggressive or how tame you make that is going to be up to you. So could it be a good first EDF? I think if you make a tame setup, utilize the gear, absolutely it could be. The nice thing is, when you take the gear off, hand launch this thing, and you set it up a bit more aggressive, it keeps even an experienced EDF pilot pretty happy. So I like that. When it comes to incorporating a gyro, we did use AS3X. Now I will say, if you know how to set up an airframe, just a pure airframe, this thing is a great pure model, and it flies fine, just fine without a gyro with a good setup. However, when we dialed the AS3X in specifically to this airplane, I did notice some parts of the flight regime where it had been a bit refined. It was a bit smoother in places, even without any wind, but you have to be a really good stick and have a lot of feel to feel that difference. I think a less skilled pilot really wouldn't know the difference. Now when it comes to the wind, that's when some sort of stabilization is going to help you, because an A-10 is not the slickest EDF you're ever going to fly. So it is affected by the wind a lot more than some of your more aerodynamic designs. And in the wind, some sort of stabilization is going to be a real plus with this airplane, so you want to keep that in mind. When it comes to hand launching and the gear, first of all, we'll talk about the gear. The gear worked as advertised. We took off of grass, smooth surfaces, had no trouble. I will say that the nose wheel has a lot of throw at 100%. You may want to dial that back, or it can be a bit squirrely. There is an upgraded gear that Banana Hobby offers for the airplane. I'm told that's a really good addition to the airplane, but to be fair, we had no trouble with the stock gear. When it comes to hand launching the airplane, the claim that it's easy, I can in good conscience say that that's not necessarily true, because I'm sure it is easy for some people. But for others, it's not going to be so easy. And I truly believe that our hand launch modification and our launch mix can make hand launching this airplane easy for pretty much anybody. So that's just something to think about. And of course, part of hand launching is recovering the airplane. Keep in mind, there are no plastic provisions underneath the aircraft to slide on when you land it. So if you're landing on perfectly manicured carpet style grass, then you don't really have to do anything. But if one of the fields you fly at is like ours, the grass is as much clumpy dirt as it is clumpy grass, and it can be pretty hard on an airframe, so much so that we utilize the geo more than the grass when we're landing a hand launch airplane, and even the geo can rub some foam away after a while. So you're going to want to use some sort of clear tape underneath in some strategic places to keep that from happening, and you don't have to worry about pulling paint up when you need to replace that. You just put a new piece over the top. So a little bit of modeling and hand launching and recovering this airplane, regardless of where you fly, is possible for anybody if you're willing to do just a tiny little bit of work. When it comes to the price point, it's a good looking airplane. It's a great representation of an A-10. It flies great. We had a blast with it, and I think it is well worth what they're asking for it. So if you decide that you'd like to add one to your hangar, we'll put a link in the description where you can go straight to Banana Hobby and do just that. I'm impressed with the XFly A-10. I like it. I think you will too. Take care of yourselves. Hope this was informative. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next week with something else cool with wings.